Welcome to Business News and Other Shit. I'm Amer, yo host. Business news and other shit. We got some badass guests today. There's no doubt today we're going to be busting caps and making some cheddar. But before we jump into guests, we're going to talk about our agenda. We're going to jump in and talk about markets. It's been a blockbuster quarter in the United States. We're then going to talk to our awesome guest, Joey Cacciatore, about his world, real estate. Maybe y'all learn a little bit how to make some cheddar in real estate. Then we're going to have my grandma come on and talk about Lyft and their IPO, beating Uber to the punch. Then we'll talk about Facebook. Somebody poured a bunch of gasoline on that already blazing dumpster fire. We'll hit Apple. If we got time, we'll hit Swedbank and Brexit, the other dumpster fire across the pond. Yikes. But before we do that, let's introduce our badass guests. What's up? What's up? What's up? Returning champion, Lancey.
175 pounds.
Soaking wet. Lancey Richardson.
How you doing?
Hailing
thanks
from
for having me back.
Mississippi. Thank you for being back, man.
It's great to be back. It's a fun show.
You're looking
and
good.
Informative.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hopefully funner than informative.
Probably, yeah. But information can be fun, and I learned that on this show.
It's called infotainment. What's up, man? Good to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Comedy Tub.
Yes.
When is the next one you'd like to promote?
This Thursday at Chicago Joe's Irving Park in Chicago.
Boom. What time?
8 p.m. Central Standard.
Boom. Perfect.
Yeah.
Guys, catch that show. I've been there. It is awesome. The Comedy Tub.
It is. It's getting real warm in the tub.
That's right. It's a whole scrub-a-dub-dub bath of laughs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Just cleanse yourself with hilarity.
Yeah. There's definitely more than one person in that tub.
Yeah.
At all times.
Several people.
It's a pretty big tub.
It's a
hot
huge
tub.
It's a huge tub. It's a huge hot tub.
It's a hot tub that is symbolically in Mississippi.
How many guests will be there?
Let's see. We'll have probably about 5 comedians of Chicago's hottest comedians right now. So yeah, come by. You never know who's going to pop in either.
Nice.
When you were there, we had a special guest.
That's right.
And that's no exception.
That happens regularly.
Usually happens, and we love that show.
You want to know why well-known comedians drop in at the Comedy Tub?
Why?
It's a badass show produced by Lancey Richardson. That's why.
Right. And Adam Bowman, Eric
Okay.
McDavis, Nick DeLowy. Shout out to them.
Shout out to them, even though Lancey kicks their ass all day long.
You don't have to say it out loud, but they know it.
Did you guys hear me say that? I thought that was just in my head.
How many people will you expect?
There's usually it's a smaller room, so probably if we get 30 in there, it's pretty warm. Yeah, it's getting on up there. So we usually run 20, 30 people in a small room. So and then the laughs gets to blazing, some roaring fires in there.
That's right. The laugh you all are hearing is the one, the only, Joseph Cacciatore. Correct me if I'm wrong. The third?
No, just Joseph Victor Cacciatore.
Just Joseph Victor Cacciatore.
Right. So.
But your dad is Joe.
Right. So we call him senior, but
okay.
I'm not a junior because I guess the middle is different. So.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. And then, but now, isn't your dad's name? Oh no, Victor.
Vic. Right.
Of
But
course.
then senior's grandpa's name was Joe.
Joe.
That's why it says
Okay.
J-O-S.
That's why I always thought it was the
Cacciatore.
third. Okay,
Right.
The Victor, of course.
I'm Quattro then, right?
That would make you Quattro, if
Four.
so, right. What's up, Joey?
What's up?
Thank you for being here, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
This is
man.
sick.
This is great.
Yeah,
But guys,
congratulations.
thank you very much. This is Joey's first podcast.
It is.
Woo woo! Yes.
Ever, yeah.
We're making cheddar and popping cherries today. Thanks for being on here, Joe.
My pleasure.
Guys, we're gonna talk all about Joey here in a minute, but Joey is someone I've learned a lot from in the world of real estate. Just kind of sitting around Joey as much as I could the last couple years, especially 2017. Most of 2018, I was not at Lacuna. But my favorite thing that Joey has developed is a place called the Lacuna Artist Lofts. We'll talk all about it when we get to talking to Joey. But first, our millennial gangstas, Kareem and Yahya. What's up, boys?
What's up? Oh, you were
Pregnant
trying to do the
pauses.
experts thing, weren't you?
No, I was just waiting for you to go.
Yeah,
first.
let's see if you guys can talk at the same time. You can ask Joey, Lancey. You can ask these two clowns anything you want about anything. They're experts in everything in the world. Like you can ask, like, what is love, or why are we here, or what is the purpose of life, or what came first, the chicken or egg? Anything that might be on your heart that you're always wondering. You can ask them, and they will answer in unison.
What happened to MySpace? What happened to there?
That's a good question.
It died.
It died. Yeah, it died.
Oh,
So
You guys let me down so fucking much with that. Joey, can you ask them a question so they can redeem themselves? Can you all at least look at each other in the eye? Jeez.
You know what? We are
the experts, so you can ask us any question.
How many years ago was Leonardo da Vinci born?
Leonardo da Vinci was born
A
a
long
long time ago.
Better.
that's pretty good.
Good. That's Yahya and Kareem, our millennial gangsters. So, with that, let's get started, guys. Let's talk about some markets. Today is March 29th, which, by the way, it's Brexit Day. 3 years ago, March 29th, 2016, the UK voted to leave the European Union.
3 years ago?
Yeah, and they couldn't get their shit together and leave, so they're still in the European Union.
Okay.
Yeah, they had a vote today, actually. Today, we're recording on, whoever's listening, we're recording
It's like
on
when
Friday,
you
March
break
29th.
up with your girlfriend and you're still living there, and you're like, well, all my stuff's here. I don't know.
Why would I want? Yeah, I'll just stay.
Right.
Yeah, Sam was talking about how it's like his parents' marriage. Dad still sleeps on the couch. It's been 40 years. Still sleeping on the couch. Won't leave.
So is Britain sleeping on the couch, or is the European Union?
I think Britain's sleeping on Europe's
Okay.
couch is the way I think about it.
Oh, right.
Europe's kind of like the big block, and they're like, yo, we own the house.
Right.
And your UK is like, yo, we want to leave.
Yeah.
It's like, all right. There's the door.
This is why you don't date your landlord.
Sounds like you have experience in that, Lancey.
I don't know anything. I haven't asked the millennials about that one.
Oh, really? Have you guys dated your landlords?
No.
The right answer was yes. Or of course. Now, what's funny about all this is Joey, as a real estate pro, is often a landlord.
Oh, okay.
So he's on the other side of that transaction.
Oh, I think I could change my answer to yes then.
Oh, okay.
I didn't know he was.
sounds like we know which way Yahya swings. No, Joe, you don't shit where you eat, right? Isn't that rule number one in the real estate world, of course?
It's definitely a rule, right? In life.
In life in general. Good
Yeah.
point. Good point.
Mhm.
Yeah. So markets, Brexit Day. So the markets, despite Brexit being such a problem, markets are doing fabulous. So markets are up 13.1% this quarter, meaning January, February, and March. If that was annualized in 1 year, it would be 52%. The stock market would be up.
That's fantastic.
50. It's ridiculous numbers. 52%. Like that's like the market almost. It's going up 50%. Here's the thing: GDP, our country's growth, is meandering around 2%. And so it doesn't feel like we should be up 50% to me annualized. I know we're only up 13%, but the reality is the markets were down. If you remember, in the fourth quarter, as we were heading into Christmas, they were down 14%. The markets were quickly tanking at the end of last year. And lo and behold, at the beginning of this year, they returned back 13.1%.
Right.
What do you attribute that to?
One thing only. The 3 letters.
The wall.
No. That's good, though. The 3 letters. F-E-D. The Fed. The Federal Reserve Bank of this country is all about playing the game. Their job is to make sure that the super rich people...
What do you mean this country?
In the United States of America.
Well, there's just one Federal Reserve.
That's true. You're
Right.
right. There's no other. All the other countries have a central bank, but pretty much most of those countries kind of
And-
report to the Federal Reserve. In a
Right.
way.
And if I'm not mistaken, it's like the Rothschilds and a couple other families that make up the Federal Reserve. It's privately owned. It's not the government's.
Well, that's right. They're independent.
Mhm.
But do they own? Do these? I've heard these families do have that type of control, but do they own them on paper? In your opinion,
No.
or from what you know?
No.
Yeah,
I don't
think
know.
they own on paper.
I don't know if I don't know. But I do know that the Fed isn't the government. It's not the USA.
Correct. Yeah, like when Trump was calling out the Fed president, Jerome Powell,
Right.
who, by the way, the U.S. government does nominate and appoint the Fed president, but the U.S. government has no say in what the Fed does. And now, why are we talking about the Fed? The Fed literally has the most powerful, important job in the world, which is determining interest rates.
LIBOR.
Exactly. They basically drive LIBOR.
Every day at 4:00, right?
Yep. That's when it gets set in New York
Right.
time, 4 p.m. Yeah.
Wait,
But
what did Joey say?
LIBOR, which is the London Interbank Offered Rate.
Oh, I thought that was a David Bowie movie.
I don't know much about David Bowie. Does he have movies like that sound like that?
It's something like that.
That was labor.
I was like, why are they dependent on this to determine the market?
David Bowie. What did David Bowie say in that movie? Oh, okay. Move rates up now. London Interbank Offered Rate. While it does determine interest rates, it also doubles as a David Bowie movie. So LIBOR is basically also, AKA, you can think about it as the Fed funds rate in a way. That's another way to think about LIBOR. Basically, it's setting interest rates. How banks will, banks will borrow money frequently from the Federal Reserve Bank, right? There's the central bank that's got all the money and determines all the policy, and then they'll spread it down to Bank of America, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So like you said, Joe, the Fed is very, very powerful. And what they basically decided to do at the end of last year was suddenly flip-flop. They went from, let's keep raising interest rates to rein in the economy and slow things down a little bit so we don't get a bubble, to changing it up suddenly, and they're like, you know what? We're going to stop raising interest rates and we're going to start being easier with money and let people borrow money more easily. And maybe, you know what? Maybe we'll even lower interest rates at some point if things get a little choppy.
That's
in the
fantastic.
economy. Yeah, so
That's great news.
From a lender perspective, people who want to borrow, and from a lender, the banks love it. They get to lend more money. We as borrowers love it. The thing that's wrong with, and this is my issue with the way our capitalist economy is set up. I got no problem with capitalism. Capitalism in many ways is very efficient. Markets, competition. But there's a lot of bad players, and the way we've set up the world is sometimes the way we set up our economy is sketchy. Like, for example, in this case right here, we love when interest rates are lower as individuals, as banks. Everyone loves rates going down. You can buy your mortgage is going to be cheaper, your house is going to be cheaper, your car loan is going to be cheaper, your credit card is going to be cheaper. However, no one really manages the systemic risk very well. So great, all these banks going to make more money. We'll all make a little bit more money because we have lower interest rates. But what does it mean when everyone's borrowing all these loans? Many people maybe who shouldn't be getting loans. That often creates bubbles. A bubble in the stock market, bubble in the debt market, bubble in the housing market like 2008. When money gets really easy to borrow, corporations go to town, or like in 2008, people who want to buy homes go to town, and they all just borrow because it's so cheap to borrow. Yeah, good sound effect. And so that's my worry here is, great, we're up 13% in the stock market. I wonder why. It's because the Fed became so friendly with lowering rates, or being much more friendly with interest rates. So it's great for us on an individual basis, but on a system basis, systemic risk, it could be like, it could put us in trouble.
Right. You're not telling me anything. I used to be the CFO of Enron.
What?
This is the first I'm hearing
You
about
are
all
from
this.
the South.
They all just take turns being CFO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You just got out of jail, right?
Right, yes.
Actually, that's
Fresh out.
Jeff Skilling, who was the CFO before you, he
yes.
recently got out and is trying to, even though he's barred from like the securities industry altogether, like he's permanently like not allowed to transact in any public company, I think.
Oh, really?
He's like launching some sort of energy company again. He literally got out of jail and went and launched a company.
And they told him not to, and he did it.
Well, they're saying that he can't be an officer of a public company, I believe.
Oh.
So because of securities fraud, he was guilty of securities fraud.
Man,
Cooking the books,
wow.
lying to investors. Yeah, you weren't doing that when your time at Enron, were you?
No, I was on the straight and narrow. But I understand
You Mississippi
nothing.
boys are so good, man. Straight and narrow.
Yeah, I don't understand anything about the market though, so that was an issue of being a CFO somewhere.
Of a financial,
Right.
energy finance company.
Yeah, a huge company.
You got away with it because of your personality.
Right. Well, I won a contest to be CFO.
So my thing is, yo, Fed, prick that bubble. Maybe you don't need to like keep raising interest rates super high, but why'd you got to get so friendly and flip floppy? Like you can slow your roll a little bit, but continue. I felt like they should continue to rein in the economy, slow things down a little bit. Cause look what we have. It feels like we've had a stock market booming for 10 years now. That's like a record, I think, in the United States. Like I'm feeling like the stock market is at a bubble itself. And if it's not the stock market that's in a bubble, it's some sort of asset very close to it. Maybe the bond market. We're at a record $250 trillion of total debt outstanding on the globe. So it's a big number of debt. And that fuels growth and it fuels strong stocks and stock prices. However, the question is like, you don't want it to go too far too fast. Then you'll have problems like the savings and loan crisis with Reagan, or the internet stock bubble burst with Clinton, or the 2008 housing crisis with George Bush II.
Right.
You know, that's how we create bubbles. The Fed creates bubbles. That's what they do. And I'm saying prick that bubble.
Can you explain to me this bubble language? What do you mean by bubble?
Like I mean, they will kind of like almost picture a bike pump.
Okay.
Attached to a flat tire.
Mm-hmm.
And you just start pumping the bike pump. And you start to see the tire inflate. What happens if you keep pumping?
It's going to eventually pop.
You're going to blow the shit out of the inner tube. Mm-hmm. And if you're slick like me, when you're riding your bike as a kid, you got a backup inner tube in your pocket.
Okay.
Fed don't have the Fed's, you know what the Fed's backup inner tube is? Us. Like in 2008, they're just like, oh shit, we can't let these banks fail.
Right.
They just took all our money, or really even our money and then our kids' money.
Right.
And now we're like $20 trillion in debt to China, Japan, and other people.
If the United States was a person with a credit card, how much of that are we making? Like, if you made $100,000 a year as an individual, and you ran up credit card debt, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. How much debt would they be in?
Yeah, 20 trillion.
Well, I mean, in comparison to what, like the GDP? Is that what you compare
Smart.
to?
Yeah. So the GDP is the equivalent of the $100,000 a person makes.
Right.
So the United States, if they were a human being, they make. How do I think about this? Okay, so here's the thing: they're in debt 20 trillion, but there's something called the budget deficit, which means like the U.S. will take in taxes from us,
Right.
and then they will have expenses.
Mm-hmm.
Each year for the last several years, excuse me, it's been the U.S. is spending more than they're taking in taxes. All right.
Okay.
Hard to believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it just
Really?
is, don't you think?
Well, especially with how many billionaires we have. I mean,
Yeah,
Jeff Bezos
like-
alone, $150 billion.
Right.
Right.
Like, what kind of taxes does he see? Like, what is his
They
exposure?
get so sophisticated with their
Right.
tax structures
Yeah.
and sheltering their income that they end up having very low taxes.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Unfortunately. But this is whole Elizabeth Warren. Have you heard about Elizabeth Warren and her wealth tax? I believe it's 1% if you have 50 million or more in wealth, not income, wealth, and then 2% if you have a billion or more.
But when you die or annually?
Annually
On your money.
on your net worth.
Right. That's
Yeah.
a great. I think that's great.
I think it's excellent. I think it'll never happen because these campaigns are bought with money. Basically, Trump, for example, was able to win the election. He put in $450 million into his election.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Wait, Trump won the election? I got to get out of here. I got to go.
I gotta go back to Mississippi. That's where you gotta go.
Yeah. I gotta get back to God's country.
You mean I can wear those hoodies now in public? Sorry, I had to go for it, Lance.
I want you to leave that in.
Here's the thing. I would never really say and be that harsh with some of my white friends in that way. Like, for me, man, I gotta make as many white friends as I possibly can as a brown person in this country. Because when shit hits the fan, I need as many white people creating like the Muslim Underground Railroad as possible. You know what I mean? I need to be in Joey's basement at one point, and then Joey calls up Lancey. He's like, "All right, Amer can go to your house. I'll grab my little kids in their diapers and we'll head over to Lancey's house." Trump will come. Is Amer Abdullah here? Lancey be like, "Nah, he ain't here, Trump. Look, I got my hoodie on and everything."
It checks out. He's not here.
Yeah. So, no. So Trump won.
Right.
Trump won the election, and in 2 years he'll be running again. Actually, they're probably gonna start running soon here. But yeah. So I mean,
I think it's 8 more years. No, 10.
4 more years, right?
10 more years of Trump.
10 more years? How's that gonna happen?
Well, he's in for another 6, and his daughter, right? And his daughter will come in.
You think Ivanka will come in?
100%.
Get the out of here.
Said it first. 100%.
Oh no!
For sure, she's definitely in.
Jared will be the first man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no!
She'll be the first president, first female president. Sorry.
Oh my God! They will totally. This country could.
Wait, is Jared her brother, or which one is
her husband?
I can't.
Her brother is Eric.
I'm glad we're getting this market talk out of the way.
Yeah, Eric's the younger son.
Okay.
AKA the accident. And Don Jr.
yeah.
is the older son.
Okay, yeah. One of them's
What's
got
the-
like slick back hair. Which one is like straight slick?
Don Jr.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's also a teenager almost, right?
Barron.
Barron.
Yeah. Barron is his son from, I think, Melania.
Right. That
Yeah.
sounds right. But
So
God bless him. President at 70 something, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, well, if Bernie were to win, he'd be president close to 80.
Yeah. I mean, there's no way
You don't think Bernie's gonna win?
ever.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be hard.
I said the same thing about Trump.
Yeah, but yeah. I mean, did you see the building Trump built on the river in Chicago?
Yeah, Bernie hasn't
Bernie
built
ain't
that.
doing those.
Fair enough.
Great. Said from a real
I mean,
real
I'm just
estate.
saying.
You know it, right?
Yeah.
You know what it takes to build that.
Try to put a sign on the front of your 25 by 100 building in this neighborhood here. Where are we? Lakeview?
Lakeview.
Yeah. Try to put a little sign on the front of your store in Chicago.
Yeah.
Go downtown and try to do it. Yeah, I mean, he put a sign the size of a semi-truck on the side of his building.
And are you saying that the city of Chicago typically will say no to that
I mean, it's just very difficult. Yeah.
to get that approved?
Yeah.
Wow.
They want money. Just the whole thing.
And he got it pushed. He got it pushed through.
Yeah. I mean, you don't see any signs like that on any buildings.
You're right.
Trump. I mean, those letters are like 3 stories tall.
Yeah, they're
Yeah.
crazy. You're right. Wow. So yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying, man. It could be 6 more. Could be 10 more years if Ivanka wins. Damn. I mean, if she wins 2 in a row, it could be 14 years.
Is it 14? I was like,
Well, if
wait,
she
my
wins
math is
2,
wrong. Right.
Yeah, if he wins, he's got 6 more.
Okay.
If she wins 2 in a row, she's got 8 more. 8 and 6 is 14.
Right. Okay. Yeah. There you go.
And then Barron will be old enough to run.
God have mercy on us.
I know. All right, so I have no idea where I was with Trump.
So that's too loud. I was gonna ask a question before.
Okay.
What if we just let the bubble go?
Oh yeah, we were talking about inflating the bubble. Yeah, we do let it go and it bursts. It's
No,
done.
like, what if we made sure it doesn't burst? Like, you know how now they're like.
That's what I'm
holding it
saying.
back
Yeah.
from
It kind of
bursting?
feels like they're doing that.
So what if we did that infinitely? Would something inevitably like really bad happen that like nothing can like protect against?
I mean, look, the economy is a living, breathing organism almost. You know, it's all of us put together buying shit and selling shit and making shit and doing services. So no, they call it like capitalism, especially. They call it the invisible hand. Markets just work. You know, the goal is to be aware of where those bubbles are and try and prick them before they get too big. The problem with our country is the rich people, the ultra rich, also have kind of bought the government. The political class and the wealthy class are really kind of one class. They're all in bed together. So they're constantly in communication about how to keep, ultra rich people at that level. So they don't really, even though it might be in their best interest to prick the bubble, they kind of know that they can just print money through the Fed or tax, the constituents, the citizens, 360 million people, to bail out these 1 or 2 million ultra net worth, ultra rich people. So they don't care if they get a bubble and burst it. They'll figure out a way to, get it out. Long term, it's like the Roman Empire. Like they're not helping themselves. But
I like bubbles.
yeah, so I know what I was saying. Trump, $450 million, $425 million. He won the election. So if we were going to actually have a wealth tax, which I love too, Joe, I think is a great idea.
But when you die in this country, you have to pay the government.
Estate tax.
Right? And what's the
Yes.
percent?
I don't know. I
It's
do know there's a
large.
$11 million. So if you have $11 million or less, tax is zero. Estate tax is zero. If you have more than $11 million, I believe it's in the 30s or 40s maybe. Is that right?
It might be more.
I just think that they also, even in that respect, they have some sort of way through trusts and estates to possibly shelter some of that money.
Yeah, you can posture against it. There's insurance for it, but not all of it. I mean,
Right, not all of
it
it.
puts family, it puts 100-year companies, 300-year companies in America out of business.
Estate tax?
100%
Wow.
every day.
Is that
Folks
right?
die, and then
Yeah.
their grandkids, their children look at each other and they're like, okay, we owe the government $18 million
Right.
this year.
Yeah, that,
They're like, what do
that
you
leaves
mean?
us.
They're like, well, grandma died, we owe the government 18 M's. Well, how are we going to pay it? Well, we got to sell the factory, or we got to sell the farm, or we got to sell the business, or we got to sell that 3 houses. Sam's
Right.
got to get paid. Otherwise, he leans it.
Right.
Terrible rule.
Estate tax.
Horrible.
Mm.
It doesn't promote building.
Yeah, it promotes fire sale of businesses.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
Yeah,
it doesn't
and it-
continue the family business.
Right. It promotes taking your money out of the country, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's what we've seen. Huge amounts of dollars
Yeah.
overseas. So, yeah, I don't think the wealth tax will ever go because the really, really rich people will just pour money into the candidate that's against the wealth tax.
Mhm.
And it'll be, next thing you know, it'll be $1 billion campaign.
That
And
makes
they'll
sense.
put Trump behind it as well. So, unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with these bubbles. That's the markets. Markets up bananas. Despite all this, my recommendation, invest in the market. It's wacky. It's crazy. But keep putting your 20% money in. I have this rule that you may have heard before, 60-20-20 rule. I say put 60% of the income you make, your paycheck, into your rent and your food, safety and security. 20% savings in the stock market. And then 20% splurge, vacays, whatever you want to do.
that's fun. That's fair.
It's just a little
It
budget
sounds
thing.
very reasonable.
Right. The problem is no one will do it. I mean, not no one, but many people won't do it. They're kind of caught up in how we're culturally taught, live hand to mouth, don't save. But the reality is the stock market is hugely controlled by the government and the wealthy in a way where they're going to always make sure it's bailed out and is always going up. We've seen that the last 100 years. It'll probably be that way for the next 50 to 100 years. So I'm like, always invest. Even if we get a burst of the bubble, it'll go down 25, 50%, but then it'll go right back up.
So when we dropped in 2008, like let's say that you had $10,000 in the stock market, so you lost a lot of money.
You were down to 4,000 or 5,000
in one day.
Yep.
Well, in a month or so.
A few, yeah, exactly.
Whatever it was, however long, when that bubble burst, but you never touched it.
Me personally, I did not. In fact, I invested when it was going down.
So would
Not
you
only in
be
the stock
back?
market,
You would be back above if you kept that same amount. You never touched it.
not
and
only would you be
went
back above, you'd be at a record all-time history of the United States record high right now.
Okay.
So
So
if
that's
so
that's
10,000
evidence.
would have become 4,000.
Right.
But today, it would probably be like, I would say 12,000.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you would have invested more money when it was at its lowest,
Yeah.
you'd be even making more money than that.
I got to get $10,000.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, man, the thing is, even if it's a small amount of money, I strongly recommend investing it.
Right.
Because of just the way compounding works. So
Right.
I was talking last week, and I made a mistake last week. I kept saying 50,000 in 25 years would be $1 million, but I was wrong. $50,000 in 25 years would be 500,000 according to our stock market returns that we've had. in this country. So if you just happen to get $50,000, maybe through an inheritance or whatever, and you put it in the market today,
Okay.
right? History tells us in 25 years it'll be worth $500,000.
Wow.
You do nothing, you'll make $500,000.
But what's that mean? Put it in the market. Take 50,000 and spread it among all the stocks. Like how many stocks are there?
Yeah, there's thousands and thousands, but you don't want. They've built.
But say there's 50,000 stocks.
Okay.
And you put $1 in each stock.
There you go.
Okay. Are you saying in 50 years each stock will go? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm saying. Each. So think about it this way. I'll give you a better way. There's already a security called the S&P 500, and they made it into a stock. It's one stock, and if you buy 50, let's say you buy 50,000 of that one stock, you buy you buy whatever money share, 50,000 of that SPY stock. It will be as if you owned 500 of the biggest American companies. They make it easy. You don't have to go and pick GE, Apple, Boeing. You know, so you just put all 50 grand in one stock. You type in SPY on your Robinhood or your Betterment or your whatever app you're using. And there you go. You have 50 grand of that one stock. And if you just sit there and let it build each year, you're going to have a lot of down years, but you're going to have a lot of up years. And historically, we have a lot more up years than down years because of the way our government is set up to always make sure the stock market gets boosted and it gets priority.
What about the capital gains tax in the years that it does well?
As long as you don't sell, you will not realize any capital gains tax.
Okay, great.
But let's say 25 years comes and you're now 55 or 60 years old.
Right.
You're probably you may be in a lower tax bracket. You may not. What you could do is take that 50 grand today and put it in a retirement account.
But the 450,000 gain that you realized, does he have a tax
Correct.
burden?
Yeah, that person will have a tax burden on that $450,000 they made.
How much will Sam get?
Capital gains tax, I believe, right now is 20%. So they'd get 90 grand of that 450.
Mm-hmm.
If you put it in an IRA, a retirement account,
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Sam gets, I believe, nothing. Wow. As long as you withdraw it when you reach the age of retirement.
Wow.
Yeah. I have to recheck how the retirement rules work, and if you use an IRA or a Roth IRA, there's two different types of IRAs, so they have different tax rules. I can't recall, but either way, you save a huge amount of taxes if you withdraw at retirement.
That's great.
Nearly all.
Yeah.
I have a question. How many people in America do you think are actually investing?
Tiny
like
amount.
A percentage, like
I would guess
10, 20%?
Yeah, somewhere between 20 to 33, up to a third, I would guess, is how many people are investing in the stock market. And those probably, the majority of those are automatically through their 401k at work. So they're not even like actively investing. They're just like, whatever goes. I'm saying, no, wake up, actively invest.
So if everyone in America was to invest 10% of
their income,
what would happen to the government, like to all of this?
The stock market itself would experience a boost. So it'd go up even more than it would normally go up because all this money is suddenly flowing into the market. It's a market just like anything else, like tomatoes or potatoes.
Would it stay there?
Yeah. As long as people don't take the money out, it'd probably stay around that level, unless for some reason it was to go down after, like a crisis or something. But yeah.
But that just means those companies are getting money.
Yep.
Because you're investing in the company, so...
It's so country club. It's like so hard to get into Wall Street, you know? And I think that these funds that are opening up for like, I know it sounds crazy, but like car collection. So like the car you had on the wall in your bedroom, the poster that you had, say it's a $2 million car now.
Right.
But they're selling slivers of it because they believe in 10 years it'll be $4 million.
Is that right? Is
so
that what's happening?
Have a piece of that ride if you like.
That's what the stock market's like.
Right.
Are you saying that it's country club in the way that car collections is country club?
No, it's stock market is like pretty elite. You know, I know you can get into it with the apps and whatnot, but still, like to have an advisor, someone that teaches you. There's libraries full of books on how to do it. I don't think those books work.
Right.
You know,
there's tons.
It's really tough to know what you're doing. There's elite players in it. It's like anything else.
That's why I say like the elite players are especially powerful when it comes to short-term trading.
Mm-hmm.
I've tried that. I've tried to get in that. And a lot of the short-term trading, a lot of the elite that you're talking about is hedge funds, knocking on doors of various big companies, the management, and being like, "Hey, Tim Cook, we're big investors in your company, Apple. Give us an idea of what's going on." And they can get, they can get a meeting with Tim Cook because they have a huge amount of investment in that company. Me and Joey Cacciatore or Lancey, if we call up Tim Cook, he'll fart on us. You know what I'm saying? Like, he won't take our meeting. So, that's some of the, elite that we,
Right.
Elite part of Wall Street
Like
that
a
we can't
video
get into.
game.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's just like, it's tough to get into. But then there's these different markets that I just think are opening up. It's part of that whole, like, crypto thing.
Yep.
which-
Yep. That's
Are
right.
hedge funds risky though?
Risky?
Are by nature are they riskier because the payoff's so much?
Yeah, honestly, they've actually had a bad run recently.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, but in general, they're actually meant to be less risky because you're supposed to have a really sophisticated Harvard Business School manager running the hedge fund.
And you have to invest you have
minimum,
to have a lot of money to
huge,
do it.
exactly. Right? Minimum is typically $250 at the smallest I've ever seen.
Okay.
They're looking for more like $1 million minimums.
Right.
Excuse me.
$2.50.
Yeah. So hedge funds. That said, the reality is trying to beat the market. Like this S&P. This is my point about the short-term trading versus the long-term trading. Trying to beat the market and short-term trade, I think, is a losing game because we can't get those meetings. So my thing is all about, and this is what I did personally 20 years ago with my dad, may he rest in peace, helping him invest his money, and then my own investments as time went on and I was earning more income. Just play the long game. Don't pick stocks. Don't try and pick Apple or this or that. Just invest in the S&P 500 or the Dow Jones. You can just buy one stock, put the $50,000 in that one stock.
Which one's QQQ?
The NASDAQ.
Okay.
That's a tech heavy. That's where all the technology companies typically list. What's so funny about tech heavy?
No, the Nasdaq. Well, I forgot what the other guy. What he
Oh,
called it.
Nishad?
Nishad.
He called it the ass dick.
Nishad's great.
Do you know Nishad?
Yeah.
Man, I don't trust that guy.
He's hilarious.
He's too funny. That's why I don't trust him.
Yeah.
Anyone who calls a NASDAQ the ass dick was like, what? What else you got? What else you got in there?
He was serious too, man.
All right. So keep investing. Keep putting that money in. The bubble might burst. If it bursts, my whole thing is put more money in. Keep powder dry. Put more money in. I know it sounds crazy. I know it sounds risky. You start slow. You put a little bit in. Disciplined. Regular. $50,000 will be $500,000 in 25 years. That's what it has been historically. I believe that's what it would be in the future.
I love it.
Let's get to our main man, Joey Cacciatore. The question on everyone in this room's mind and every listener is, of course, Cacciatore. Does it have anything to do with the dish?
With the chicken.
With the chicken.
Chicken Cacciatore.
I'm sure you get that all the time.
I hate it. It's gross.
Right.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't
the
like it at
actual
all.
dish?
Yeah, it's terrible. It has olives in it and tomato and
yeah?
onion. It's horrible.
You're not an olive, tomato, onion guy.
No. And wine in it. No. Yeah. It's not for me.
No, Cacciatore means something else.
Yeah, it means to hunt.
To hunt.
Right.
Hunter.
Hunter.
Joey the Hunter.
The hunter.
I like that.
It's better than being hunted.
Amen,
true.
brother.
Yeah.
Amen.
Chaseatori is the hunter.
Chase it, Tori. Chase his ass down, Tori. But yeah,
That's
Joey,
good.
thank you for being on the podcast, man. So let me just introduce you, Joey, in a proper way, man. What I love about I met you, Joey, at Lacuna. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But Joey, what I love about your story is you remind me of myself. You grew up around some of the greatest real estate minds. I'm not gonna say Chicago, Joey. I'm gonna say the United States of America. And you know what? Since we are one of the most dominant real estate markets in the world, probably the world.
Wow.
I know you may
That's
not have
strong.
thought about that in the past, Joey, but I think it's true, man.
Wow.
Multiple generations. So Joey is the fourth generation, I believe, of a company started by his great-grandfather in 1906.
06. Right.
So yeah, we're talking about 113 years now. So growing up around that is just, it's going to naturally make you a great mind in real estate, which I can't wait till we talk about that. And by the way, not just real estate. Joey grew up also in the banking industry. So his family also purchased and owned and ran a bank. So Joey, probably, if I remember correctly, from teller all the way up to sitting in the chairman's office, you saw all of those levels of the bank of a bank.
Yeah, it was a summer job, right? Yeah, going through college, my grandfather was chairman of the board, wanted me to learn the inner workings of a bank.
Beautiful.
Yeah, the family purchased Lakeside Bank from R.R. Donnelly in 1993. I think they're the world's largest printer.
I believe that's right.
Are
they still, you think?
I think so.
Wow.
Yeah, I think so.
I picture their name on a phone book and all that stuff.
I know.
Right?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they're still in Illinois.
Yeah. Now, number two, what I love about Joey and what really inspires me, why I love to be around Joey and just to get from him and steal from him his gifts. He helped launch the Chicago branch of an organization called the Remix Project, which helps underprivileged or at-risk youth enter a 9-month art school to learn kind of the fundamentals of the music industry and other artistic industries.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so Joey helped launch that, and its first home was in Lacuna Artist Lofts.
In the U.S., yeah. It had existed
in the U.S.,
for,
yes.
Oh, boy, probably 10 years or so prior to it coming to Chicago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the last thing I love about Joey, which inspired me the most, and I strongly believe that college is not for everyone. In fact, I think most people should not go to college.
Mm-hmm.
If you can get into like a UFC or Northwestern or Harvard, great.
Mm-hmm.
But I think saddling a poor kid at 18 years old with $250,000 debt, he ain't going to pay that back till his 30s. So I don't think most people should be going to college. Like, invest in yourself, that $250,000, you know?
That's great. Yeah, I wonder what that 250 and the S&P 500 looks like.
25 years. It's going to be 10x, so $2.5 million.
Well,
there you go.
how would you get that money
The 250?
if you're not going to go to college?
Well, you could borrow it for books and education. I think you'd borrow it for S&P.
That's one way to think about it. How would you get that? The 250?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would be tricky to. So the government is dying to loan you $250,000 to saddle you with debt. They're dying to do
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
They'll federally subsidize it. You know what I
For
mean?
school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. And then at 35, once you finally pay it back after 15 years, then they're telling you buy a house. And now you got another $250,000 you got to pay back. So you're just in debt your whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like you're just trying to dig out of a hole since day one.
Right. And even after death, as we've learned.
After death, you're saying?
After death, you owe the estate tax.
And whatever debts you owed, you still got to
Right.
pay those back. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you die, you have a debt. If you owe the government half of what you own.
Right.
If you did really well. And that's what this country is built on. You know,
That
folks
estate
doing
tax,
really
you're saying.
well.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, it's not like you're rewarded.
For doing well. They take it
Right.
when you die. Yeah, it's crazy.
Start from zero.
So, but what I love about Joey is he dropped out of college to develop a property, probably many properties, but the one I'm specifically talking about is the one that's most inspiring. He developed a property called the Lacuna Artist Lofts and then managed that property as well. All right? So Lacuna Artist Lofts, I worked there for about a year, is an office building built for essentially artists. Now, it's not all artists in there, but it is basically one of the coolest buildings I've ever been. Joey, through his contacts and relationships, basically curated this office building into what appears to be like an artistic museum. He brought some of the most popular, famous artists to come in and actually do their artwork on the various walls, inside and outside, graffiti on the outside as well, of the Lacuna Artist Lofts.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction. That was really nice. You did indeed work at Lacuna, and we did meet there. That all of that was true, and Lacuna is great. I really appreciate you saying all those nice things.
Beautiful. There's nothing like it in Chicago, and I've never seen anything like it in
Thanks.
other cities I've lived in.
Yeah, it was built by the Viviano brothers in the late 1800s, and as they expanded, they tripled in size. It's a 250,000 square foot, heavy timber, Chicago common masonry, brick construction.
In Pilsen.
In Pilsen, yeah,
Oh, okay.
thanks for that. And their daily capacity was 175,000 pounds of pasta.
Wow.
So they make 175,000 pounds a day.
This is in the 20s,
find the
30s, 40s,
poster.
50s.
Right, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Right, and then something happened with Prohibition. They got, I don't know, there's like all these crazy stories online about the Viviano brothers, and maybe their ties, like mob ties, something
wow.
crazy. And then they ended up being bought by Viviano Paste, like
Okay.
a tomato paste company. Or Constantino Paste, sorry, not Viviano.
Okay, so
Constantina Paste bought them.
another food processor.
Right. And then I think they were on the East Coast for a while. And some Jewish brothers bought the building at that point.
Mm.
And they turned it into a schmatza warehouse. It was full of rags.
What's a schmatza?
A rag.
Oh, okay. I've never heard that before.
They were put out of business in the 80s by the paper towel. And then my dad bought the building from Larry and Seymour Goldstein.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Your dad did?
He did.
In what year?
88.
88 in
graduated
Pilsen.
law school.
Get
yeah,
outta
he
here.
bought the building.
88 in Pilsen.
Right.
There was no one buying buildings in Pilsen in 88, I assume. Or I
no,
guess
he
my
didn't have
point
the
is-
money, and his dad didn't want to invest if his dad had the money at the time. But it was a huge building. My dad met the sellers at a Lakeside Bank luncheon.
Oh, yeah?
There was a luncheon, a lot of people there, and the Goldsteins were sitting with my dad. I said, we got this old, big, huge warehouse. Why don't you come and take a look at it? So he went over there, and it was full of roof leaks. It was a mess.
Oh,
but
yeah.
he wanted to buy it. So the same day he bought it, he sold half of it to a law client
Oh, really?
for a little bit more than the whole price.
Get out of here.
Mhm.
Instant profit.
Nice.
Mhm.
And now he owned the other half free and clear.
Right. Wow. Happens all the time in real estate.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Okay.
More than you think.
Okay.
Yeah, guys will come and buy. There's a deal right here down the street, 1,000,004 square feet. Used to be the Marshall Fields warehouse for furniture.
Sure.
1.4 million square feet.
Huge.
Yes.
Basically 6 times Lacuna.
Right.
Wow, that's huge.
The developer, same guy that did 600 West Chicago, where Japanese was,
Yep.
and Google, or whatever. Not Google, sorry.
I think Google was over there, weren't they? They've
they
moved
may have
since.
been, but it was Groupon that I was thinking of.
Groupon, yes.
So that guy bought the Fields building, paid $8 million from Macy's for it. It's 1.4 million square feet.
$8 million he paid for
$8
that.
million. He sold the corner to Cermak, the produce, the anchor.
So the
grocery.
corner of that building.
Yeah,
Just the
200,000.
corner.
Just say 200,000 feet here for $4 million.
So the produce store gets that for
Make
$4
it
million.
cute. Make it $5 million. And then Cube Smart or whatever, the storage guy,
yep.
he took 200,000 feet, but he sold Mike from Cermak this, and then he sold Cube Smart this. Say $5 million over here and $3 million here.
He's done.
already
He owned 1 million square feet for $0.
Ah,
And then he sold that last year for $40 million.
get out of here.
My buddy Zane bought it from Nick Point, New York.
I
Paid
wish it
him
was
40
Zane,
M.
my sister, that bought it.
Yeah.
Wow,
Amen.
really?
Yeah. Amen. True story.
That is something else.
Yeah.
We got to find us a building that we can chop up and like chop shop.
Oh,
It's like
my
a chop
soul.
shop. It's like a car, right? How you chop shop a car?
I don't know.
You haven't chop shopped any cars, I guess. Man, what a story.
Yeah.
So Lacuna was that story. So yeah. So and did I describe accurately how you managed, how you developed Lacuna and then managed it?
Yeah, I mean, I developed it by moving in my peers and like-minded individuals. That there were many barriers to entry for folks growing up. Our family had millions of square feet in property. I was very blessed and lucky to see that, growing up and having access to that.
Right.
And I saw how hard it was for both businesses trying to have space, and then also on the other side of it is the landlord trying to manage a single occupant tenant building, so because if that tenant doesn't pay or they're in arrears, like the state of Illinois DCFS, they were a
Right.
tenant of ours, they paid like 14 or 15 months in arrear. So that means the
Way behind,
taxes,
right?
Yeah, every 15 months behind. So that means the tax bill, mortgage bill, insurance. I mean, they probably paid utility, but not all that got passed through. So
Right.
it would become a big burden.
Yeah.
So yeah, with Lacuna, it was a different approach. It was, how many businesses can we fit in 250,000 feet?
Right. And did like for when you were kind of like curating it, right?
Mhm.
Bringing in unique artists to
Well, it
literally
was just the first art. Yeah, artists were the ones that were okay with being in a building that 99% of it was empty. You
Right,
know what I
right,
mean? They
right.
didn't care because it wasn't like
they don't they're not thinking about networking and this and that.
Yeah, Lacuna was unique in the sense that it wasn't spec. It wasn't built speculative. It was built to suit. So I
Right.
started with an empty building, blank canvas. That's what the word means. That's where I came. I looked in the Webster Dictionary and named it Lacuna because that means empty space in music.
Lacuna means empty space.
Right.
Okay.
So the first person that would come in, Rodney Wade, was the first tenant. He paid $500 for 300 square feet on the 5th floor. He brushed his teeth up there. He probably lived up there. But that's what started the avalanche.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
And at some point when you were bringing in artists and they're
Right.
and they're putting their art on the walls,
Right.
literally on the walls of an office building, and the outside walls as well, graffiti. I mean, Joey has this great story of ultimately he had so many graffiti artists coming to Lacuna from around the world to spray on the building graffiti. He ended up buying. He's like, why do I keep renting one of these mechanisms that lowers and raises and lowers a person on a building? Can you picture that thing? What's it called, Joey?
Yeah, just a boom lift, like a man lift.
Man lift or
Yeah.
boom lift. He's like, I just bought one. I was like, so snap. This guy's got so many graffiti people coming in. It just made more sense to just buy one of these things.
Well, I
That's how
financed
much.
it. Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, because I realized that to rent it, I'd never rented one. Well, I was looking at one from Penske Rental, and that's who I ended up buying it from. And they sent one out for the first time, and to rent it, it was like $6,000 for the 2 weeks I needed it.
Right.
And they were like, it was like $60,000 to buy it. And I think we put like $8,000 down or
Yeah,
something.
just buy it and finance it. Made sense.
I still have it. I only used it those 2 summers or whatever. But
But at some point, were you like, yo, am I doing too much in the art world, art on these walls, and this is going to actually turn people off?
mhm.
Or were you like wise thinking like, yo, if I build it, they will come. The right people will come who want to be in this building.
Yeah, I mean, I just knew we had to pay homage to the folks that came, that really allowed us to be who we were, and we don't conform there. It's like a way different development. It's not this conventional style.
Right.
So there's people painting all over the building in the middle of the night. So we were like, we're not going to push them away.
All right.
Without them, we don't exist.
So it was honoring the existing.
yeah, exactly.
That's smart. That's
I
very
have the
smart.
building under contract, by the way.
Oh, really? You
Mhm.
guys are selling it? Wow. It hasn't closed yet.
No.
All right, so if I want to get in on a little action, I have a chance.
You have a chance. Yes. It's
Anybody
listed
got-
at 32.5.
Anybody got $32.5 million?
I was
I have Monopoly money.
I'll take it.
So
Well, I guess I have mixed feelings. I'm sad to hear that, and I'm like, hell yeah, baby, let's sell that thing.
Yeah, I mean, shit, that's why I built it.
Yeah,
Yeah. To let it go.
yeah, manage it, develop it. So okay, so teach us how to make some cheddar.
Mm.
So as I understand it, real estate development.
Mm-hmm.
There's a science behind it. There's an art and science behind
Yeah, it's just
developing
like
real estate.
the restaurant business or the
Right.
grocery store business. You buy it, you
And
make
de-
your money on the buy. You
right.
know?
So let's take a piece of land that is not zoned, not permitted.
It's just like
not
a piece of
developed.
chicken.
Okay.
You need to season it and marinate it
Right.
or whatever.
And suddenly it's worth a little more.
Sure.
Now,
Yeah.
now, what if you not only season it and try and sell that, but you season it
Right.
and put it on the rotisserie at Whole Foods? Now you can
Right.
charge even more.
So how about 1509 Western? That's a good one, right? Because
Oh, I know it,
privy
right.
Right.
Right, then it's near
Amer
my
lives
house.
down the street from it, and you know Danny Resco. You guys know Danny.
know him, yep.
Right. Danny and I built that building together. So that building, that's a good example.
It's a 14. Well, how many units? 10 or 12?
It's,
Or
18
18 units.
residential and 2 commercial.
Okay.
So it's 20 unit building. But that's a good example of like how folks make money in this country. I'll make it really condensed. My
Take your time.
mentor of mine, Chris Karbowski, bought the property for $300,000. It's 3 city lots.
This
So
is
it's
basically
75.
near Wicker Park.
Yeah, it's Lemoyne and Western.
Yeah. And you paid $300,000 for 3 city lots.
Yeah, maybe like 310.
Okay.
I don't know, something.
Sure. But a really low amount. And when did he buy
Right.
that? Do you know?
Yeah, in like 2013,
Oh,
14.
six,
somewhere
five,
around there.
5 years ago, he paid
Yeah.
$300,000 for what would be 3 city lots.
Right.
Wow.
It was vacant. At the time, it was a parking lot. It was a surface lot for the art building. It's like an art, but it's residential. You could live in it too, to the north of the development. So that's like 15.
Now, when he bought it, was
Mhm.
it zoned residential
No,
by the city
it would
of
have
Chicago?
had zoning. It would have had poor zoning, meaning really basic, like not fancy for surface parking.
Yeah, meaning all you can really have there is a parking lot. If you wanted to build a building or have someone live there, you'd have to go get it rezoned with
Right.
the city.
It probably allowed you to build some sort of bullshit commercial, like a lot of the lots in Chicago do. Or if it was resi, which it probably wasn't because it was on Western. I don't know what it was. It was probably commercial plus 1 or 2 on top. But Chris is a developer and he knows what he's doing. So he bought the property for $300. He hired my dad who's a zoning lawyer. And they went to the ZBA, the Zoning Board of Appeals.
This is at City of Chicago.
Yeah. And they went in and they filed for, what's it called? Not a zone. They didn't change the zoning because then you need a map amendment. They went in and filed for a zoning variance, and they were granted it.
Meaning that they submitted some sort of proposal to say, hey,
right,
you guys have this currently zoned as parking lot or commercial,
right?
But based on this variance or this change,
this case, they bring a case in front of the board, and the board doesn't give their answer right there. They wait 2 weeks, whatever it is.
They review it,
but they bring a case. So Dad's the lawyer. He brings expert witness, which is somebody that knows that 20 units in the neighborhood is needed. So somebody that does a feasibility study or something like that. Somebody in the neighborhood maybe that, super for whatever. You have to send mailer out to everybody within 250 feet, say, that live there.
Yep.
And invite them to a forum where they come in and voice their opinion. But at that time, it's already too late. If you have the alderman's support in this city, you're good. You can do it. There's 50 wards, 50 aldermen.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yep.
Chicago's.
Who's in that ward?
unique
Joe
in that
Marino,
way.
is it?
I think it's
know.
Wagasback. Paul
Okay.
Wagasback.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then they go to the board. The board
Right.
approves it and says, hey, we're going to go ahead and change the zoning so that you can now build residential units.
Right. They're going to give you the variance.
They're going to give you the variance.
Right.
So they get that in hand.
Right.
Now, does Chris Karbowski's property for $300,000 that he bought,
Right.
does it change in value because the city has now done that? They did that work.
Well, in the meantime, that took 14 months. So while that was happening, because the city that works is very slow, Chris was able to hire John Hanna for like $7,500.
This is a
Architect.
Architect? Okay.
Yeah, and John drew the building all the way to the permit. It's the day before you get the permit, basically. Drew the shit out of it. Because permit drawings cost about 50 to 75 grand for a building like that.
Architect will charge you that much?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, and he deserves it. So
And these are drawings he'll do, and then they'll be submitted to the city of Chicago for
right.
approval,
and then
permit approval.
Right, and they'll stamp the plans. The city stamps them and gives you the building permit, and then
Got
it
it.
starts.
Got it.
And then there's
Is
these
that
hurdles.
is that valuable to the property or the land when those blueprints are stamped?
Very.
Oh, is it? So
Yeah,
what?
it's gold.
So $300,000 goes from $300,000 to what?
Danny and I paid $2.1 million for the dirt.
Wow.
And it didn't come with the plans. We had to pay Hannah for the plans. Hannah got like 60 grand or whatever, like I was saying, and then the permit cost like 40.
$2.1 million plus $60,000.
Right.
Sloppy
And
seconds for Hannah.
Right. Exactly. So Chris made like, I don't know, over 1.6 million.
Yeah. 1.8. 300. Yeah, 1.8. More than 1.8. But hold on. But is 1.8? He made all that profit because of not only the drawings, the permits with the architect, but also because of the zone variance.
Well,
he improved the zone.
of course, yeah. You could put a shovel in the ground that day.
Yeah.
And build 20 units.
But the truth is, he didn't put a shovel.
Never.
He didn't bring a broom. He did
He didn't
nothing.
pick up a shovel.
He didn't pick up a shovel.
No.
He made $1.8 million.
In 14 months, he made 120 grand a month. Wow. Yeah.
That's called real estate development, my friends.
Wow.
And they did not even develop any physical structure on there
Right.
yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he had initiative to do that.
Right.
Oh, right. Yeah.
You have
Inside
to-
initiative drive. Yeah. Focus.
And what are the risks of doing that? I mean, what if you can't get it passed by the board, or you don't have any friends that are aldermen?
Yeah, it's a
You're
great question. So you work your way up to the risk tolerance,
Oh, okay.
I think. Like that's Chris. I mean, Chris at one point had maybe like $300 million in the bank.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for Chris.
No longer, but he did really well.
Yeah.
So I mean, he'd worked his way up. That was a small potato for him, to be frank.
Right.
But
All right. So, wow, $1.8 million. Chris Karbowski, good for you. And you guys paid it. Happily paid $2.1 million?
happily paid it. Yeah, we built a building.
All right, so
It's
hold on.
there.
So now he's made his 1.8. Now you guys step in. You're like, all right, hands rubbing together. Danny, let's build this building. You guys call up construction people. You pay the architects. You've got drawings. And you're like, all right, let's break ground.
We closed.
You close on
Do
it.
you want to know how, or is that's not important?
Oh, yeah. Give us one or two sentences on that.
Okay, Danny found the money in California.
Okay, so it's not even your own $2.1 million.
Right.
He finds an investor.
Right.
Okay.
He found
What
that
the hell do you guys do then?
Exactly. Yeah, Danny brought an investor in, and they paid 2.1 million. Then we called Chris and we're like, "What are we supposed to do?"
No way. Was this like your first kind of one of your first developments?
Yeah,
Sorry,
definitely first new ground up,
brand new.
Yeah, without my dad being the one doing it. You know,
right, nice.
I was always like with him in the passenger seat, like I was driving to the meeting. But yeah, so we closed, and Jacob came with his front end loader and started digging.
Yeah, the construction guy
for the foundation. Yeah, and then it took a.
Now wait. So to this point, you guys have not put $1 in.
That's right.
Okay, so 2.1 million. Obviously, you cut a deal with the investor, saying, "Hey, investor, you're going to get a certain percentage of the profits. We're going to get a certain percentage of the profits when we sell this building."
Hey, investor, you own 100% of this thing.
Oh, okay.
Until certain things happen.
Okay, like what?
Like
to the extent you're able to share.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so they own 100% of the building.
Right.
You guys are going to do the work on good faith.
Right.
How do you guys get paid? When the units get sold eventually? Or
no,
what?
well, there are different hurdles. So.
But is it rental building or
it's rental?
Not okay. You're not selling condos. It's a rental
it's
building.
a full. Yeah, it's full. It's an apartment building, right?
Got
18 unit. There's 12 2-bedrooms, 6 1-bedroom.
Got it.
And they're like what, $2,500 for
A
the
month?
2s a month, and say like $1,800 for the 1, something like that.
Got it.
And we're currently looking for a commercial tenant. But the building is stable.
Okay.
And worth about $9 million.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
$9 million.
Right.
Okay, let's get this straight. So
Right.
you guys got 2.1 million from the investor.
Right.
It's now worth 9. So there's potentially $7 million in profit that you guys made by putting the deal together.
Right.
Now, right now, the investor, because he owns 100%, he gets all $7 million profit if you were to sell tomorrow.
Well, they wouldn't sell. They don't sell.
Okay, they hold.
Right, they hold. So once it's stable, once it's full, they want the commercial full, then there'll be a refinance, like a refinance hurdle.
Okay,
so they'll pull money out.
Oh, they'll pull money out. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, meaning banks will they'll refi the property, at which point it'll be so valuable.
But like internally though, because these folks have so much money, that it's like it's a little bit different.
Okay.
Than a traditional deal. Like, so that's why I didn't know if I should bring up the investor with this one. But here, quick math: 2.1 million. It cost Danny. We got to check. Definitely under 4 to build it. It was like 3.8. Oh,
right. You had to build it on top of the 2.1.
Right. So like
it was 3.8 to build.
Right.
So 3.8 plus 2.1 is
like
$6 million bucks.
Yeah, call it $6 million.
Okay, so cost was $6 million.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not total.
So
profit.
now, yeah,
if it's 9, there's $3 million in profits.
Right.
Got it. And so then let's hypothetically say they were going to sell tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
I know they're not, but would you guys get a chunk of that $3 million?
Yes.
Okay. Are you
third.
able to share? Oh, really? A third? $1
Yeah,
million
Danny
bucks.
and I would split it 50-50.
And that is the fee you make for developing. You developed the property.
Right.
My man.
That's pretty dope.
All right.
Wait, so how does one get into this? Like, do you need to
go find a property?
Yeah, you buy your first property. I mean, Chris Karbowski and his wife Ivanka Karbowski came to Chicago from Poland with $0. They borrowed $5,000 from Ivana's wife, Chris's mother-in-law, and they bought their first 3-flat in Bucktown. It was like $65,000, and they had $5,000. I think Chris had like another $3,000. They put $8,000 down on the 3-flat, and they fixed it up. And the banker came over and was like, "Boy, you guys ought to refinance." He's like, "Well, what the fuck is refinancing?" You know? She's like, "Well, this shit's worth probably like $300,000 or $200,000 or whatever it was."
It went up
then.
in value.
Yeah, and you should do like 2 more, 3 more. You know, so that's how it starts. Yeah.
So basically, you're gonna need some sort of capital though beforehand in order to get into this.
No, you don't. The Cook County Land Bank owns 30,000 units. They're $1. And I don't mean units. I mean lots. Like some of them are buildings. Fuck.
Yeah. So what he's saying is, generally speaking, yeah, you need your $5,000 to put a down payment on a $65,000 place. Let's say in maybe a lesser in demand neighborhood like Marquette Park. They're $50,000, $7,500.
That's fair.
Right.
Yeah.
Pick a neighborhood that is struggling, and you could do that. And maybe in 5 years, 10 years, it's worth double, triple.
Mm-hmm.
Or Joe's saying there's also the opportunity with the city of Chicago. There's a lot of people who pass away, or they just stop paying attention to their property because they have troubles in life. And the Cook County, the government or the county, they take those properties after a while because they're like, yo, you haven't cut your grass. Your walls are falling apart. This is not safe.
Well, really, they don't care about the grass. Barrios doesn't have his tax, or Kagi, the new tax assessor.
Oh, okay.
It's if you don't pay. After a
They're
while.
focused on taxes not getting
Right.
paid. So if
Right.
you don't pay your county taxes, they just take the property from you, and now the state, the country, the government owns that
Right.
property. And Joey's saying there's 30,000 of those down at the city of Chicago or Cook County.
Right.
You can knock on their door and be
But
like, yo, I want to take one of these for a
Also,
dollar.
I became a franchise of Homevestors in June. Today we had 2 closings. They were like our 11th closing since June.
Wait, what's Homevestors?
It's the thing. They're the largest home buyer in the country. 85,000 houses they've bought so far. They buy the good, bad, and the ugly. That was their old slogan, and they had like the caveman up on the billboards.
Yeah.
But it's a franchise.
I remember.
And we
those
became a
billboards.
franchisee. We bought North Chicago, so it's McHenry, Lake.
Ah.
These are the counties: McHenry,
yeah,
Lake. Shit, I forget the other ones. But it's like the houses today. This was a very unique situation. We closed on a house in Edison Park, which is in Chicago, like two blocks away from the Pickwick Theater in Park Ridge, which is not in our territory.
Mm.
But the son, whose father owned the house and passed away, lives in our territory, got our flyer, called, and now it's our deal.
Oh, wow.
Right. So a lot of the houses we buy are from...
And they call you up to say, hey, can come
This
buy
is my
house.
parent house. My father, my parents passed, or they're no longer here. And
Just
my
give me cash.
siblings, right. We don't want to deal with the roof leak or the bullshit and
Just
shit
give
in the
us
basement.
$100,000.
We take care. We pay the closing costs. We leave the garbage. I tell people, don't do
Just
shit.
walk out.
Just leave. And we pay everything. We pay for your lawyer. Yeah.
Wow.
Now the franchise, and we have a partner, and he's like, his name's Mark Higginson. He's great. And my dad was a partner with his father-in-law for many, many years.
Mm.
And Mark was Mark, the son, is a real estate developer. He built Steve Vernon and my sister Maria's home in Deerfield.
Oh, nice.
And it was a ranch house. He popped the top and did really well. And Mark knows the business. So Mark goes and meets with these people, and he offers them, usually it's like 30 or 40% less what the MLS would say for their neighbor's house. Yeah?
Wow.
What's the MLS?
the
Multiple listing
market
service.
the market value of the house.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
like the house might be worth
Right.
$100,000 if you're going to sell it on the open market.
So typically we're
but
buying...
he offers 40% less, so I'll give you $40,000 for your $100,000 house.
Right. So typically we're buying the neediest house on the block.
Excuse
you
me,
know?
I meant $60,000, so 40% discount.
Right.
So you're buying the neediest house. It needs a lot of work, right?
Right. Yeah, we bought. This is a good example. 7-Eleven Edwards was our first deal. You could pull it up. It's in Crystal Lake.
Oh, that's the address, 711 Edwards Street.
Yeah,
Okay.
in Crystal Lake. It's a block away from the lake. It's
Okay.
awesome. It's corner house. It's 1,000 square feet though. It's a baby. You
Yeah,
know,
small.
with a basement.
Okay.
We paid $63,000 for the house. Paid Mark 18 or 20,000 to, for the rehabs.
Uh-huh.
But I'm gonna get to why I brought all this up.
Yeah.
And a first-time home buyer who got a Freddie Mac or Fannie Mae loan closed a month ago, and she paid 170 G's for it.
170.
170.
You guys put in 63 plus 18, which is 80.
Yeah.
So 100. You guys made 90 grand. Or
That's
80
right.
grand.
Yeah.
Wow.
Damn.
There's franchise fees. They
Yeah,
see 2%
Homevestors,
of
right.
it, or 3% of it
Did
until
you-
$1 million.
Where did you guys get the 63 grand in cash to give
Right.
them on day one? Homevestors?
Right. So Homevestors brought 70% of it,
Ah, that's good.
and they'll finance 100% of the rehab. I don't do that because it's back end loaded, meaning that you put the rehab money in and then they send you
Ah.
the reimbursement, or add it to the loan.
Yep,
amount.
yep. You didn't do that?
No, the
Oh.
rehab on that one, it's so small.
18 grand. is
Yeah.
small. You just give the guy the 18 grand to rehab it.
Yeah,
Makes
exactly.
sense. Homevestors, that's cool.
Homevestors, yeah.
Can anyone be a franchisee?
Yeah, that's why I'm bringing it up. It's just Chicago is flooded.
With
So that's
Homevestors?
why I didn't do Chicago. We're North
Ah.
Chicago.
Ah.
Yeah.
And it'd be
it's
smart is
interesting.
finding a geography where
Right.
it's
And they're opposed to cold calling, it's hot leads. So that's
from
how,
Homevestors?
that's how it works. Right. They produce the leads.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
But you pay into the pool.
Huh. To get those leads.
The
Makes sense.
advertisement pool.
Makes sense.
Right.
That's fair.
So depending on how much you put of the pool, your share of the pie is how many calls you'll get, how many hot leads. So if they raise $100,000, see they have like this crazy algorithm that takes the city of Chicago and says, okay, that market can afford $100,000 a month in advertising. I don't know how they come up with that, but based on how many people live here,
Live there, yeah.
the market,
How many houses are there?
right? How many people are looking for a first-time home buyer? It could absorb $100K.
So are you guys the guys that have the signs, "We buy houses cash"?
Yes. Oh no, those little teeny
I've
white
seen
ones.
those.
No, yeah, those are like
those are actually me.
Those are no. There are a few guys that had come in and out of Lacuna that had started beginning getting homes. Was one Sam Faley. I don't know if you knew him.
No.
Nice fella. But no, those are just like random people doing their own thing.
Those are the drug stuff.
What?
I don't know. But
Those words just come out of your mouth?
Homevestors is
The
legit.
drug
And
I thought
Stuff.
those were the people like trying to buy those houses in order to
Turn them into crack houses?
Yeah, exactly.
I think that
That's what I thought.
if you
That's
don't-
not why I put those signs up.
Oh,
That
okay.
sounds risky.
The crack houses?
Crack houses sounds risky
In
to me.
general.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Putting up the
multiple
sign
reasons.
and the phone number is even riskier.
Especially
You're
with
telling
that
them.
handwriting, it's just like something's wrong with
It
this.
does look like sketchy handwriting.
Yeah.
Do you know what we're talking about? Those signs? We buy houses?
Right? Yeah.
Man, yeah. I should get a better person to write those.
You should. Stop making me write those.
Man, Joe, you just taught us how to make some cheddar in real estate, right? Am I wrong?
could have made more.
always make more.
Man,
Oh,
you made
yeah.
it look really appealing. That's,
That was
I'm gonna
sweet.
be doing this very soon.
Good.
Yeah, I mean, look, real estate. If
By
you-
the way, I borrowed the franchise fee. Is that okay to say? It was like $75,000. I didn't have it.
don't
I
tell home
know.
investors.
No, they borrowed it.
They lent it to you?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Are you kidding me? I'm a junior.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wait,
put
what's
like
a junior mean?
20,000. They were like, you can be a junior if you put 20K down, and the 75 will finance, interest free, but they take 3%.
A junior meaning like a lesser not a full
no,
home investor?
right? Just because I owe the franchise fee,
yeah,
but I have
yeah.
all the same rights.
That's great. That's crazy.
Full disclosure. So
Love it. Thank you for the full disclosure.
you're welcome.
Man, what a great real estate rundown on development.
Yeah.
And I mean, look, real estate, if you buy and hold, so there's development, which is you make money in a 1, 2, 3, 4 years, or however fast you can flip it. But if you buy and hold, real estate returns similar to what the stock market returns. But it's better because most real estate is purchased on debt. So,
Right.
so for, let's say, you put 50 grand into the stock market, that's going to be 500 grand in 25 years. You put 50 grand into as a down payment on a $250,000 property, right? Now you've got a lot more money at play in the real estate market than you would otherwise in the stock market. You got 50 grand in the stock market, but you now have a property worth 250 that you're hoping is going to go up each year at least 3, 4, 5%. So you could possibly, depending on the house, depending on the area, you could possibly have that $250,000 property in 25 years be worth $2.5 million.
So
You
it
know.
appreciates a lot faster than your money would in the stock market.
Because
yeah,
it's so
10%
big.
every 10 years. Sorry, 100%.
Every what?
Every 7 to 14 years, maybe
Yeah.
historically.
No, that's
so
right.
if you were to look
For real
at
estate,
just call it 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. I see the rule. I think is this: stock market doubles every 7 years historically.
Mm-hmm.
I would say real estate doubles every 10 years historically. So you get a little bit faster in the stock market,
Mhm.
but the nice thing is you're putting a lot less in the real estate market to
Wait, hold on,
get
hold
that
on.
doubling.
I don't think I. What did you say again? What doubles what?
All right, so stock market, you put the 50 grand in 7 years, it'll be worth 100 grand.
Right.
Okay.
In the real estate market, you're going to put 50 grand down payment for a $250,000 property, for a $250,000 property. But that's going to double in 10 years. The 50 down payment don't double in 10 years. The property value of 250 is what doubles in 10 years. That
Right.
becomes worth what? $500,000 in 10 years. Historically speaking, we're not guaranteeing these numbers. This is historically. You can have a crash tomorrow morning. But historically speaking, that becomes the 50 grand you
right,
put
but
in.
there's 250. That one's not fair because there's debt. Just say you bought a $50,000 house and 50,000 S&P 500. The 50,000 in the S&P will double every 7, and the 50,000 in the house every 10. Right? The house will be worth 100K.
If you bought a house in Market Park for 50 grand, yes.
Right.
But he could potentially, if he had 50 grand, he could buy a house in Bucktown, a
Right.
small bungalow for 250. Actually,
Right.
you probably can't, but let's just say you can. $50,000.
Right.
And even though there's debt, going from 250 to 500 after 10 years,
Right.
the property being worth $500,000, he gets to capture all those 250 in profits,
Right. Exactly.
in appreciation. So his 50 made him a lot more.
Right.
So in real estate, it's leveraged. You do have debt. You got to pay that the 200 you borrowed back, but that's okay because the value of the house went up so much. It's the Chris Karbowski thing,
Oh yeah.
where his
No, it's the model.
$65,000
It's the
place,
US model. Right.
his $5,000 down payment turned into 300 grand.
Right.
He just had to pay the 60,000 back as a loan.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of times There are different sites you can check out. ResNet, if you want to type that. That's Fifth Third's database, but all the banks have them. The money center banks have them.
Is it RES or RE?
Yeah,
Okay.
RES.
And they're basically listing their
They're listing their
BKs?
their REOs. Yeah, the
REOs.
real estate owned assets.
So when banks, a person goes bankrupt and they foreclose on them, they'll sell those
Yeah.
properties.
So a lot of times you can buy a $2 million house for $1 million.
Yeah. By the way, basically nowhere else in the world except
Mhm.
America can you put $50,000 down for a house
Mhm.
and get a $250,000 property.
Right.
It's harder to do in Europe. It's impossible to do in most other countries.
Right.
We are a debt-fueled
Right.
country.
Mhm.
Huge, massive. So
Yeah,
the
it's
point
prime
is,
for growth.
take
especially-
advantage. If you're in America, take advantage of that because
Right.
if you lived anywhere else, they're not going to lend you $250,000.
So why is it like that over here but nowhere else?
Federal Reserve, I think, is one reason. We actually run the world money-wise.
Yeah, I mean, look at the size of our country. I mean, it's enormous.
You know,
Yeah.
we're after World War I and World War II, when we stepped up and basically bailed out a lot of these European countries, we ended up creating this Federal Reserve, and that determined what's called monetary policy. It determines the cash. It determines how gold is bought and sold, how oil is bought and sold. So it's a little bit more complicated to get into it, but we're special in that we're, America, and we're just bullies around the world. That's what we do, and so we can dictate policy.
Well, the
So
way
take
he was
advantage.
saying that you can borrow money to invest in real estate. So you're not in it. Can you do that with the stock market?
No, that's what's unique. No, you can walk into our family's bank with no money and close on a house. You don't need money. Okay, that's what's different about the stock market. You can
Correct.
buy real estate. Okay, this house right here, I'm going to buy it for $100,000.
For those listening, he's pointing at an Aquafina bottle as if it's a house.
And there's probably 7% left. Or less.
Yeah.
Okay, this is a $100,000 Aquafina house, but and it needs paint. It needs like $70 in paint in a weekend. And it really needs spirit. It needs someone to move into it. It needs life. The appraiser comes in after you and your wife move in, and he sees it, and he says, it's a nice house. It's worth $120,000. Actually, sorry, you haven't moved in yet. I'm sorry. You don't own the house yet, so you didn't paint it. The house is worth more than $100,000. They're asking $120,000. It's worth $130,000, and you end up making a deal for $100,000.
100. It's worth 130.
Right. You walk into Lakeside Bank. They order an appraisal. The appraisal comes back $130,000. The house is only $100,000. You needed to come with $30,000. You don't anymore.
Okay.
There's $30,000 already in
equity.
appreciation
I gotcha.
Right.
Oh, so your down payment.
Is the equity in the house?
because you're able to get a
Oh.
deal on that house.
Right. You're buying the house for $30,000 less than the bank is valuing it.
Okay.
You made 30 G's.
So
I didn't come to the bank with any money. I came with an address and a contract
All I gotta do is find a really good deal and bring it to a bank.
with a signed deal. Yeah.
And
And
what
a nice
about
credit report.
score? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need to be A1, but shit, you need to do business with your bank. So if you've been with Chase or whomever it is for a
Right.
long time, they'll appreciate it.
Right.
They'll see, like, you can boost your internal credit just by showing that you've been with someone a long, long time.
Right.
Yeah. Because these banks can only borrow, like Amer was saying earlier, the Fed opened, so now the bubble may last longer, which is great. But what allows the banks to borrow is the deposits. So they're prone to lending to the folks that park their money with them.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Are they gonna look back to when I was 18 and I was bouncing around? It says here you spent $30 at the movie theater when you were 18. You did not have that in your account.
I think to be focused more on the credit score in that circumstance
Right. Yeah.
than anything else. Yeah.
So that's another follow-up question. What's like a good credit score in order to be able to
Well,
do this?
yeah, back to that real quick. It all depends on how much you pay Sam. The ratio on how much money you can borrow in this country is a function of how much you pay tax, period.
What do you
That's
mean by
really
that?
it.
Okay.
So if you're a big taxpayer,
You can borrow more money.
you can borrow more money.
Yeah. So if you go to the bank and you say, I want to borrow $1 million, they'll say, okay, bring me back your IRA. Bring me back your filing.
Tax forms.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 years. Prove that you made $250 a year.
Yeah.
And you paid Sam $10,000, help me with that. I don't
Well,
know.
if you,
like
if,
a
you, if
lot.
you made 250 a year,
30% of
they
it.
take 30% of that,
Yeah.
which is like.
So you have to prove that you paid 80 grand.
60, 80,
whatever,
exactly.
something like that. So for 2 years. So you paid the government 160 grand in 24 months. Thank you. You can borrow $1 million. You paid the government what 320? So you made 500. You can borrow 2 million.
But what
Almost.
What
you
they're
know,
really
like
looking
it's almost identical.
What they're
like
really
that.
looking for is just how much in income you reported to
That's
the
right.
government. They're just looking to see how much money you made.
Right.
Yeah, so the more money you make, the more you can borrow. Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. All right, Liz. Any final amazing real estate questions for Joey before we move on to Lyft IPO?
Left.
All right, for Lyft IPO, we're gonna bring my grandma in.
Grams. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Mr.
Hey.
Lancey.
Hey, good to meet you.
You're from Mississippi?
Yes.
Oh, I've never been.
Yeah, it's nice.
Should I go? You think they will welcome a grandmother named Zarifa to? I'm Muslim, I'm scared they maybe.
Right. Well, I definitely would. I would welcome you. I can't speak for everyone.
In your house, you would welcome me.
Yes.
What if I came? What do you eat in Mississippi?
We eat mainly Cracker Barrel and.
Every time I drive to Wisconsin Dells, we stop at Cracker Barrel.
Yes. Yeah.
Excellent.
Do you enjoy it?
My favorite.
Okay. Yeah. You'll like Mississippi. then.
Especially the cheese.
Yes, we have cheese down there.
Delicious.
It may not be Wisconsin cheese, but it's
Mississippi
it's
cheese.
Good. It's good. It's good. Yes.
Hi, guys. And Mr. Joey.
Hi.
You're a very handsome man.
Nice to meet you, dear.
Are you single?
I'm married.
Oh, too bad. You want another wife?
One is enough. Thank
Okay, if you change your mind, I have 3 waiting.
It's nice to meet you.
It's beautiful. Boys, Yahya,
Hi, Sitna Zareefa.
good to see you.
Good to see
Mr.
you.
Kareem,
Hey, Khalto.
thank you. Very respectful. Okay, boys, I want to talk to you about big changes happening in the market. Okay, we're going to have a lot of IBO. Now, I know you hear IBO, but it's IBO. Do you understand?
I think she's trying to say P as in Peter.
Thank
Okay.
you. We have no B in Arabic. We only have the B. Okay, my friends, ride sharing is only the tip, or should I say tip of the iceberg. You see, Lyft, this company Lyft, ride sharing Lyft, they made $25 billion today. March 29, today they go public. Can you believe this? Big number, 25. Now, look, this son of a bitch, they manufacture nothing. They own no real asset. You know Joey? He owns asset. Lyft, no asset. They have no cement. They have no brick. Nothing.
Lyft is more like Lancey. He owns nothing.
Just shit.
Smart.
And basically, they employ no one. All these gig economy employees, they are what you say, a
Brilliant.
contract worker.
Right.
This to me is tech bubble from 2000 all over again. Because guess what? Uber, they are coming next with their IBO. Pinterest, I love this website. It helps me put a pin in some of my favorite dresses. What?
Pin in your trust.
Yes, pin in my dress. Who's next? Airbnb, Airbnb?
Wow.
They're going to go public. Billions, hundreds of billions. Okay, who else? I'm trying to remember. I wrote it down here. Yes. Slack, you know this Slack? I use it all it's an app for office workers and these people. It's like WhatsApp, but more for business.
Okay.
They're gonna go public. Postmates, you know Postmates? They're gonna go public.
Man.
And a company called Belotin. They are like workout. You work out with everybody on the internet, you know?
Oh.
How do you work out with people on the internet? I don't know. Just work out with people. Why are we not talking to people anymore? You know? When I was born 1912, all we do is talk to people. So I can talk to people. But today, my grandkids, I look at them. They cannot even interact with anybody because they don't know how to talk to anyone. They actually forgot how to talk to people. Do you understand? In this country, there's going to be two-class people. No more rich, poor. It's going to be those who can normally interact with people and those who cannot interact with people. It's going to be a luxury to be able to interact with people. Otherwise, you will just be like a robot. You know, robot?
You know, Grandma, I once took 2 gym classes online in high school.
You son of a bitch! How you take gym class online? What are you doing? Are you standing up in your bedroom running in place?
Actually, there was one that was a jogging class and one of them was an aerobics class. And I just basically filled out the paper and I just sent it to them. I did nothing.
See? Your generation full of liars.
Work smarter, not harder.
You are a liar. You're going to go to hell, you know, for lying.
I mean, I eventually did the running afterwards. I just didn't want to do it at that time.
I can't. I don't even believe you did the running. You look like a lazy bum.
Thank you. I'll try to be better next time.
So if we think about this, I believe that this is another tech bubble. It's like a tech bubble, you know, because isn't it possible for anyone to just open up another Uber or Lyft and compete with these guys? I mean, it's crazy to think they have no real asset. They manufacture nothing. It's all gig economy. This whole gig economy it's crazy. They're just an app. They're an application for iPhone. That's what they are.
Is eBay an IPO?
eBay, yes, they are public. They are a public company.
And they don't own anything. And I mean, they seem like they don't have competition just popping up.
Who the hell invited you to come to this podcast?
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's a good point. Okay, it's a good point. However, eBay, I've got nothing to say to you.
I mean, they do have Amazon. Amazon does compete with eBay, but in a different way.
Very different, yes.
But whereas Lyft and Uber are almost exactly the same.
Yes, and you do have a good point. They have a good point because other bidding companies tried to compete with eBay, but they were really the best at this. And they were also, they have what's called first mover advantage. They were the first one and they were strongest.
Uber was the first before Lyft, is that correct?
Yes, and everyone thought Lyft was an afterthought.
Right.
You know, like who cares about Lyft? But then, you know, fast forward, many scandals later and douchebag CEO, and you now have Lyft being a real competitor.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, you know, so Lyft is 25 billion. Uber, when they come, is going to be 120 billion. Maybe 5-6 times. But still, people like Lyft a lot because they say Uber, garbage company, you know.
Both companies have the same employees.
Right.
Yes, they will drive
Isn't
for
that
both
weird?
companies.
That's weird.
Yes, very weird.
But they are manufacturing. It's just not something that you can like buy. They're manufacturing a ride.
They are manufacturing ride, yes. But my point is,
No,
it's
I
possible
know.
anyone can manufacture
right.
ride.
That's true.
The truth is, I don't know if they will go like eBay or not, but I am already hearing of many people they're opening, like Via and some other ride sharing, you know.
Via.
So I could imagine someone open just for Chicago, and they can possibly know the market better and make lower cost, lower price.
Like Divvy bikes.
Exactly. And that's why people buy this Lyft. They believe so. Okay, so everyone thought they were afterthought, but they're actually legitimate. The crazy thing, Lyft, they priced their IPO $68 initially. Then they went public at $72 because they saw everyone wanted to buy. And when the stock opened today, this morning, it opened after pricing $72. It opened $87.
Not on.
20% up from the pricing.
Wow.
Everybody want to buy Lyft. Everybody.
That's cool.
It's the first big tech IPO in a long time. We have at least 6 more coming.
Would you
Put
buy?
on your seatbelt.
Would you buy?
If I could get into the IPO, when they do something called roadshow, Lyft CEO, he drive around the whole country. He explained to all the big investors, the big one, Fidelity, the big hedge fund. He explained, please buy $5 million of shares, $10 million. He doesn't come visit us. These people, they have special access. to buy millions and millions in shares from JP Morgan and other people who are running the IPO. And so what will happen is we can't easily buy the IPO at $72. Most people cannot. It's only the elite on Wall Street, the big guys, because they need to sell billions and billions, so they go only to the big guys. But if we buy $87. That's what we do. So I do not recommend buying IPO for any of these companies now. In fact, to me, like my smart grandson Amer was saying, it's bubble. This is more bubble. This IPO's bubble, you know, but it's gonna pop. It's gonna pop. Not pop. It's gonna bob.
Who's Bob?
I said Bob, not Bob. But look, the last thing I will say about this, okay? The last thing I will say, they are trying to tell everyone we are not just ride sharing. It's the tip of the iceberg. We are going to do bikes. We are going to compete with Divi. We are going to do scooter. You know scooter? We are going to do autonomous car, the self-driving taxi, self-driving car. So everyone is saying, okay, let's invest because one day in the future. But today this year they lose $1 billion. They're not a profitable company. Next year they will also lose billion. Maybe 2021 they will make money.
Lyft?
And yes.
Really?
Can you believe, Joey?
No.
Neither
They're
can
gonna
I.
spend. They're gonna lose
Huge.
$1 billion?
They just keep investing the money into technology,
Really?
autonomous cars. Yeah, they're losing big money. They're trying to build more riders. They keep giving 10% off. If you have Lyft, I bet you in the last week or two, you get 10% off, 20%. Anybody get email from Lyft the last week or two?
Nope.
No.
Never used it.
I got many emails. They say, hey, Amer, next 10
So
rides.
then they do have asset then because they have millions of people probably signing on for some sort of agreement, like $10 a month something.
Oh, if they have subscription, but I don't think most of them do
No.
subscription. You know what their asset is? I tell you what their asset is. Like Facebook, they have a lot of data and information on where we are going.
Yeah.
And they have our email address and our phone, everything.
So true.
This is what get Facebook in so much trouble. That is probably the asset that Lyft has.
Have they been in any trouble?
Lyft is good company, actually. A good corporate citizen. So no. Uber, different story. They can't get their shit straight.
And Facebook, I hear, is not great.
Facebook is, like my grandson say, it's a dumpster fire. But inside the dumpster fire, there's a dumpster that's on fire. My friends, it's time for me to go. I love all of you very much, except for you two. Goodbye.
Love you too.
Bye.
Shit. All right, we're back.
Are
down.
you sure?
Hello, guys. My grandma's great, right?
Yeah, she's great.
I like her more than you.
You know what? So do I, actually.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Let's keep going. We are running along today. Let's go through some of these quickly. Facebook. Yeah, she was right. Somebody poured a bunch of gasoline on a dumpster fire. I mean, in fact, dumpster fire is I think the kindest thing I can say about Facebook these days.
Right.
These guys are not a good corporate company. They don't plan very well. I feel like they don't bring the right people in. When they have a difficult decision to make, I feel like Zuck and Cheryl get hold up in a room and they make some bad decisions. I mean, like, there's so much. They're being investigated right now. There's a new lawsuit today by the Department of Housing, like the organization the department that Ben Carson runs, Housing and Urban Development, basically saying that they are permitting advertisements to be put on their platform by housing companies, like people who are trying to sell real estate, in a way where they can pick which races and which religions and which who they can target. And so they're obviously discriminating against who they can show ads to. They're basically saying we don't want these.
That's
for example,
what makes it the tool, though.
What do you mean?
That's what makes that act so sharp, is that you can do that.
Oh, Facebook?
Yeah.
Right.
That's what makes it so awesome. Yeah,
I
that
know.
you can target
So
those type of
that's
people.
tough.
Yeah, when it comes down to housing, what you're doing now is making
But
sure
just
no
voting or anything, though. You
exactly.
can do it the same
Right.
way.
Yeah.
But with housing,
But
yeah,
housing is
I know
different.
what their beef is. Yeah.
Because why? What happens in housing? You are literally segregating a city
Right.
even more. Lincoln Park. Oh, so if you're a real estate agent in Lincoln Park, well, let's make sure we don't pay for African Americans or whatever, these types of people, or these Baptists or whatever. We don't want any of those people moving into Lincoln Park or buying. It's like, what are you doing? Like that's sketchy business.
Yeah.
So, but here's the thing: Facebook totally cool with it. They're like, yo, if you're gonna pay us for ads, we're cool with it.
Right.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah, you
I
genuinely
have
feel that
no
way.
issues with it.
Segregation in that way.
I mean, electronic segregation. It's
No, but what it's doing is it's making sure certain types of people can't move into certain neighborhoods.
Yeah, so it manifests into a physical.
It manifests into a physical segregation. So let's say I'm Muslim and people don't want Muslims coming in Lincoln Park, right? They make sure, all right, let's make sure no Muslims are put on this list to see this house.
right. Well,
I think that's how it's working.
I know, but
I know.
that would probably mean that there are no Muslims already in Lincoln Park.
Possibly. I mean,
I'm just saying, no matter what neighborhood, wherever they're doing that preset as a conditioned response.
They're trying to keep the environment the same as whatever it is.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine if it was. 50,
I mean, it could be a whole black neighborhood. It could be the Obla homes. They're not going to advertise any white people because I don't think there's many white people getting vouchers.
They may not. Right. I could see that. You're right. I think
It's a cool tool. That's all I'm saying. It could be used in a good way.
yeah,
Could be,
it can.
but it probably won't.
In many ways, it gets abused, as we saw. So that's one thing, right? They're also getting investigated, obviously, by the FTC for the Cambridge Analytica scandal, SEC for the same scandal, Cambridge Analytica. How much did Facebook know about Cambridge Analytica and did not disclose it? And then the Justice Department, they're getting investigated. I mean, there's all this, this thing started sketchy, right? With the whole screwing Eduardo Saverin and the Winklevosses.
Right.
Do you remember that story on Social Network, how they kind of screwed the initial investors?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The rowing team or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then they've changed up their product. They're talking about making it more like Snapchat now. I don't know if you've heard about this, but they're basically saying they want to turn Facebook into non-public posts so that it's all private posting the way Snapchat is. I'll just send to you four in a group,
Ugh.
which I don't know how Facebook would do that. So the chief product officer, he
That's
left.
what group chats are for.
Right,
Yeah.
WhatsApp, right. And then, just all sorts of privacy violations. And then, of course, New Zealand, this massacre of the Muslims in the mosque in New Zealand, that was broadcast, live streamed on Facebook, and their job is to catch that and take it down. And they completely failed at that. And then even after the fact, it was still up on Facebook in hundreds and hundreds of different places. So they're just struggling big time, And the most recent thing today they came out with was they said that they will now start. They've agreed, after reviewing white nationalists and white supremacists on Facebook, they now agree to block white supremacy hate groups from Facebook. You don't say, Facebook, that it took you that long to figure out that these hate groups are that detrimental to society.
Right.
They're just, as a corporate citizen, I think Facebook is. So I would be advising to sell Facebook, not just because of how much investigation they're under and how much shit they're in, but just because, what goes around comes around. If I'm supporting that company with my dollars, I feel like the negative shit's just going to come back to me. So I'm a seller of Facebook if I was owning Facebook.
Do you think you should buy Twitter or something like that, or do you think that social media itself is under attack?
No, I think social media, as Joey was saying, is a powerful tool. Could be used for good.
Right.
I just think it's the wild, wild west right now, and no one's reined them in yet.
Yeah, and there's a lot of dust around it's got to settle. Because you would think that that Twitter would do better when Facebook did worse, because it seems like the Uber to its Lyft.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
Facebook, isn't it Instagram?
They
Just
own Facebook and
clothed
Instagram.
So that's not fair.
Right.
Because
What do you
if
mean?
you were to strip Instagram from Facebook, it would sink.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
And the
It's-
Messenger app. The Messenger app is a big one
Huge.
for Facebook.
And
Right.
WhatsApp. They also own WhatsApp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's
so
WhatsApp?
WhatsApp. What's WhatsApp?
So Instagram, I think, is generating huge.
Right.
Yeah,
That's their
just
bread and butter. I think what's happening is the bread and butter. So Facebook is the bread and butter with people over the age of 40.
Right.
Mhm.
And Instagram is under the age of 40.
There you go.
They've nailed it. They've
They've
nailed
nailed it. Yeah.
And yeah, they're making billions, but they're reckless. As a company, they're reckless, and I don't think they make the right decisions. They have
Yeah.
these powerful tools,
And I think you've said this before, that the government is probably eventually going to step in with social media and start regulating it.
I think so, because it's just, especially when like they saw that the Russians messed with our elections so bad through some of these memes that they were creating and pitting some of the country against the other part of the country.
Right.
I've got to think.
I'm glad that that's all stopped now.
Oh yeah, it's not happening at all. It's probably like 10x what it was before.
Yeah. Oh,
crazy.
Ugh.
That's Facebook, so I would recommend selling that. Apple. So Apple, let's jump to them. They had a huge announcement this week. Apple is basically transforming. We always thought of Apple as like standing in line, waiting all night long to get the new iPhone or whatever. Right. Earlier it was the iPod, then the Nano, then the iPhone, then the AirPods, then whatever. I think that's going to change. That is changing dramatically. I think it is. They're kind of even announcing it publicly. All right, so their big announcement this week had nothing to do with any hardware. It was all services. So number one, they announced the Apple credit card. All right, they're doing this with Goldman Sachs, where basically you will have a physical and digital credit card. All right, and they'll give you 2% back on that card instantly. So whatever purchase you make, you get 2% back right away.
Well, that doesn't compete with my Chase Safer card.
Oh, yeah? What do they give you?
4% cash back on all dining and entertainment.
Amazing.
That's the only thing I use my credit card for is dining and entertainment.
Right. Hello.
And then they announced Apple TV Plus. All right, so this is not Apple TV. This is Apple TV Plus.
Live TV.
They didn't talk about live.
Okay.
They're basically saying it's going to be the competitor to Netflix. They want to compete with Netflix and Amazon Prime. And they brought out all those. They had J.J. Abrams. They had Oprah saying that they're going to be creating content for Apple TV Plus.
Wow.
So yeah, it's going to be a real thing. I think they're putting $1 billion into Apple TV Plus, so it's going to try and compete with Netflix. So they're transforming away from a hardware company into a service company.
By the way, all of their hardware can fit on this table. Everything that Apple
Every
makes.
single thing they make.
Every single thing.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I believe it. I mean, they're so well designed.
I know.
But they're not stupid. They're realizing that the hardware game is kind of over. You know, that making them $100 billion a year on hardware is not going to happen anymore. People are not turning in their iPhones for at least 2, 3, 4 years.
I think they did it in a really smart way this last week, because they announced, or like the week before that, they announced a new iPad. They updated the MacBooks. They announced the new AirPods. They announced a bunch of stuff, and then they're like, oh, and then this is all to tie it up together, and this is how it works together. And
Yeah.
So
they nailed it, and you nailed it. That's right.
Yeah.
Then they came out with something called Apple News, which is different than the current news application. It's going to be $9.99 a month subscription, $10.
Wow.
And they're basically aggregating many of the world's newspapers and magazines. People, Vogue, all these magazines. Wall Street Journal will be on there.
New York Times?
You will not have New York Times or Washington Post. They have not inked the deal with those two big companies. But with most everyone else, I
love that. That's brilliant.
Isn't it? Somebody did the calculation. For $10 a month, the equivalent would cost, if you were going to subscribe to all those things, it would be $7,000 a month.
That's amazing. That is so smart.
That's gangster.
Yeah.
And the last thing is
that's
Apple.
basically like iTunes for news.
Bingo.
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 Yeah.
That's it.
So
because they
fucking
revolutionized
love
that.
Yeah, they
Smart. So by the way, at the end is I'm going to say buy Apple. Like if you don't own Apple, buy Apple now, because they've done killer the last 20 years. But I think they're about to transform, and they're smart. They're just somehow they stay nimble and they figure out what the next change is, and they're way ahead of everyone else on it.
So do you think they're gonna manage to get New York Times or screw over New York Times? Because
I think New York Times. No, I don't think they're going to get them. But you never know. I mean, because if New York Times sees, I think what New York Times is thinking is like, let's just see how this thing.
Yeah, I mean, being the giant that's out of that pool, it would be fun for a little bit. You know,
right?
You'll probably their subscription base will grow as a result.
Wait, New York Times?
Probably.
Meaning more people will be willing to pay for the New York Times?
Maybe.
Because they're the alternative. They're
right.
You
can't get
them. You can't get them. Right. Interesting.
I don't know.
Maybe. I think they're smart in just saying, we're just going to wait.
Or they'll make their own New York Times.
Who? Apple?
Cupertino Times.
Yeah. New York Times is all about its history and how their processes have been built for the last 150 years. The last thing they announced was Apple Arcade.
Cool.
So it's going to be a subscription again. I think it's $10 a month, but I'm not sure. And this is where you can, just like you do with Netflix or something else, you can do the same thing with gaming. You can, instead of buying all the games, you just play them on the Apple products.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, so I'm all about buying Apple. I mean, this is getting to a point where again, they're gonna have a lot more of our data and information.
Right.
Apple's like, I don't know if you guys heard of WeChat in China.
Mm-mm.
WeChat is basically their big Facebook, and you could do everything in there: pay for things, buy things, sell things. WeChat has ownership over all Chinese people's data. Apple's kind of turning into that as well, where they're about to control everything. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a reason I think to buy
Everything.
Apple.
Everybody in the club getting tipsy.
Yeah, everybody at Apple getting tipsy right now.
Is that Chingy? No,
Who's that?
I don't know. Everybody.
Oh, everybody in the club getting tipsy?
Yeah.
Who is that? I don't know. Do you know? Everybody in the club getting dizzy.
It's a name. I think it's a name like Chingy. It's like a.
Wingy? Stingy?
I think it's Wingy.
All right, let's go on to one of our last stories here, and we won't get to Brexit. Swedbank is a Swedish bank, a big Swedish bank. Their CEO was ousted yesterday, a woman named Birgit. I didn't write her last name. I forget her last name. It starts with a B. But these guys, police raided Swedbank's offices yesterday. Yeah, because of suspicious activity with, wait for it, Russia.
No
Surprise,
way.
surprise, right?
I don't believe it.
Yeah,
but
and
they're
you could
such a good country. I mean,
picture a bunch of dudes named Igor in red Adidas tracksuits with cheap vodka. Yeah, so this is a crazy story. We talked about this maybe a month or two ago. But this Swedish bank had a small Estonia branch. Estonia is like one of the smallest countries in Europe, and they had a tiny branch in that tiny country.
Okay.
And there was hundreds of billions of dollars of transactions going through that small
my
branch
God.
in that small country. 170 billion to be exact. What? And the Swedish bank discovered the shit going on, and they started investigating. They realized that Swedbank's Estonia branch is a money laundering operation for Russian people to get money over to the U.S. and into Europe in general. Because a lot of Russian money is blocked from coming in and investing in the U.S. because it's a lot of like, shady money.
isn't that a good thing for Europe and the U.S.?
What, getting that money
In?
from an investment perspective? Yeah, we'd love to have billions and billions of dollars in our countries investing. However, it's being laundered here illegally, and it's potentially supporting like these Russian guys who make all this money, right? It could be Vladimir Putin's money. So we're helping Vlad make money by him investing in Apple or him investing in Boeing. So we're helping our enemy make money. It was like same thing as like terrorist financing. Like you're helping Osama bin Laden make money by him investing money in the stock market here. Because these guys, when they have these operations, they have billions and billions of dollars they're making from taxing people. So they want to invest it and make more money.
Right.
Tell them to put it in Lyft. I think that's a bubble.
Yeah, let them lose.
Yeah.
Now, this happened. What's funny is, so a month ago when we reported on this, another bank called Danske Bank, which is a bank in Denmark. And if you remember, like the Nordic countries, there's Sweden, there's Denmark, there's Norway,
Right.
there's Finland, I want to say.
There's an
Right.
IKEA over there in that area.
Minimum one. And what's crazy is Danske Bank was also under huge fire because they had a $250 billion laundering problem with Russia through also Estonia.
What is going on?
What the going on in Estonia is my
For
question.
real.
Like that president must be just like making bank for letting these all these money laundering Russians do this.
Jeez, that's a lot of loans.
Yeah, we need to find us a bank in Estonia.
Yeah.
Or let's just build a country next to Estonia.
Build a country. Let's do it.
It's like Build-A-Bear, but
We'll call it Kareem.
Do you guys talk meditation on the podcast?
Let's do it.
Have you?
No.
No,
No.
I
no.
don't think so.
Joe, you're a daily meditator.
Oh yeah, heavy. Yeah.
You did at the very, very, very beginning of the podcast.
Oh, you're right.
We talked about it for a little bit.
As part of one's relationship with money.
Yeah.
Especially when you got the checkbook out or you get anxious about money and there's panic around money.
Yeah.
If we're not thinking clearly, we have a difficult relationship with money and our behavior with money becomes messed up. And so that's when I proposed, hey, this is when you're dealing with money, when you're sitting down with your wife or spouse or partner, husband, take a moment. It's good to meditate before you talk money.
Take moments for
Right?
sure. Yeah.
Do you do transcendental meditation?
I don't. No, I'm not transcendental, but
You know, Joey, you have a very ASMR voice.
what's that?
What does ASMR stand for? Does it stand for anything?
It does. It's like autonomic.
there's this
sensory something.
There's this big trend on the internet where people talk like this.
Autonomous sensory meridian response.
Meridian response.
Oh, meridian response.
It's that tingly feeling you get when you like see or hear something, something like very satisfying to you.
You make us tingle, Joe.
Thanks. No TM for me. I got introduced to meditation just through some of those cultural exchanges with artists we were talking about earlier.
Okay. So it's people that when you were developing the building, they introduced you to meditation.
Yeah,
Some of the
one in
artists.
particular, his name's Ricky Lee Gordon. He's from South America. And he was in a monastery painting in Bali and came across a book called The Art of Meditation by Guy Bergs and read it.
His name is Guy Bergs?
Right. Guy Bergs, yeah. And the organization's called The Art of Meditation.org. And anyway, Ricky was like, man, I've never met this guy, but he's written all these books and he's a meditation guy and he has these retreats around the world. If you ever have time in life, you should try to do it. So anyway, I went on one and then I've been on a few since. I've been on 3 or 4 now.
What country was that first meditation retreat in?
Oh, the first one with Guy Bergs was in the UK. It was in Midhurst in West Sussex.
Okay. And what other
England.
countries have you been to where you're on his retreats?
France.
Mm.
Yeah. In the Pyrenees Mountains. He's got like a couple 100 acres there.
That's beautiful.
Which is in like Perpignan, France, 2 hours south of Paris.
Joey, why do you meditate regularly?
It's just it's a good question. It's a practice for myself. Sitting on the cushion is a time to turn up for me. A time that I'm able to celebrate that I've gotten through 24 hours of at peace. Yeah. So sitting there is like a party.
Really?
For sure.
I've never heard it described that way.
It's 50 minutes of just amazing, just being alive. You're there by yourself, just with nothing, you know? And the things that pop into your head or whatever, you know, you just learn to deal with it. You just are like, you're cleaning the mind. It's a process of refinement of character.
Cleaning the mind.
The cleansing of the mind. Yeah. And it's amazing. And life-changing, the best gift I can give to anybody. So that's why I wanted to talk about it. Just
Thank
for a
you,
minute.
brother.
And his retreats are free. So the last time I was on one, my roommate Will had donated soil because he's a some sort of farmer, like nut farmer, and it's fertile ground. So, but yeah, meditation is great. We go on 7-day silent retreats. You don't talk for 7 days. You turn in your phone, and you sit for about 6 or 7 hours a day, cross-legged on the floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those 6 or 7 hours are broken up into.
They are.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're broken up, and and they're guided.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bergs guides them.
And are all the meditations you do guided?
They are.
Okay.
Yeah.
And when you say it's a party and it's a cleansing, say more about that. Like what? I understand a party as something that's celebratory.
Right.
I'm mingling with people. They're making me laugh. I'm having a good time. I'm making them laugh.
But you feel good.
And during the party we feel good.
Right. Yeah. It's about feeling good. It's about being happy.
So you're saying
happiness is a feeling.
So you're saying
it's all about feeling. So meditate. So what I'm trying to get at is the word feeling, sense of like everything alive wants to be happy, and happiness is a feeling that arises under certain conditions only. And when it does arise, the idea of self, which is the root of all suffering, goes away. When you sit with yourself, by yourself, and you learn that you have everything that you need, and you just are happy and at peace. I don't know, something happens in the stillness. It's amazing. It's great. You clean the mind. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah, I've done some of these meditations. Joey sent me some of these meditations from Bergs. Joey's lent me Bergs' biography, or maybe autobiography, I think. It's his book, and I read through some of that. And I benefited a ton from some of the things Joey showed me around meditation.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think that you guys, everyone would benefit, in the whole world would be just like amazing if we realized we have enough, and the things that we do have, how can we give them back energetically or just however, just.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of our economy would benefit from more sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like what happens is the wealthy kind of pocket a lot of it. They hoard it. And most 98% of the people are like, yo, where's all the resources in this country?
Right.
And they're typically hoarded.
Right.
We're going to be wrapping up here. Guys, make sure you check out Lancey's show this Thursday, 8 p.m.
Yes.
At the comedy, at where?
Chicago Joe's.
Chicago Joe's.
Yes.
It's called the Comedy Tub.
Chicago Joe's.
Yeah.
That's on Western.
It is on Western. Not far from the house you built, the building you built.
It's technically on Oakley. It's at Irving Park and Western.
Just off Western.
Nice.
Just
what day was
east.
this again?
Thursday,
This
8
Thursday.
p.m.
Thursday, 8 p.m.
Yep.
That's right, got it.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. Thanks for being on here, Lancey.
Love you.
Joey, you the
Love
man.
you,
Thank
man.
you, brother.
Thank
Our
you.
Millennial Gangsters.
Love the millennial.
Thanks for
Gangsters.
listening, all. Peace.
Peace.
Peace out, guys.